from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. Our telephone number, if you want to join our late night national town hall conversation, feel free to do it. 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. And there's a bunch of things, headlines coming out of Capitol Hill, ranging from the Chicago mayor and city council are blocking a referendum. That's not Capitol Hill, but interesting story on the national front anyway. John Fetterman is outraged that he himself is saying he's not a progressive, and he's getting his progressive friends very angry. Then you've got House Democrats now demanding answers from Secretary Mayorkas over denying border funding for Arizona. So how about that? He's making enemies on every side of the aisle. But the big story tonight has been my buddy from WABC, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, who has been ordered to pay over $148 million to two Georgia election workers for defamation. And Giuliani had a few things to say this afternoon. He made a statement at a press conference. Listen to this.
Obviously, possibly we'll move for a new trial. Certainly we'll appeal. The absurdity of the number merely underscores the absurdity of the entire proceeding.
So now Giuliani, again, former mayor of New York City, former lawyer for President Donald J. Trump, had already been held liable for defaming two Georgia election workers before the civil trial began in D.C. federal court. This is now the outcome of that case. Giuliani made the defamatory statements, that is what they're alleging, about Ruby Freeman and Wandrea Shea Moss as part of a series of claims that Trump lost the election due to ballot fraud. They're saying that this information is false. They went on to say that this case is separate from similar cases in Georgia. Now, Giuliani wasn't done there, right? America's mayor went on, and he says he believes the case will be overturned. Listen to this.
I am quite confident when this case gets before a fair tribunal, it'll be reversed so quickly it'll make your head spin.
So Giuliani's confident that this thing isn't going to stand up in court. And honestly, there's a lot of cases like that. We've seen the way that the radical left, in my opinion, uses lawfare to go after their political opponents, right? What was it that Rudy Giuliani really did, right? They're saying that he made stories up and he lied, he did this and he did that. Let us just suppose for a second that they're accurate. Let's just say, how many lawyers are out there that are not lying on behalf of their clients to defend their clients? Are they going to jail? Are they being prosecuted like Giuliani is? No. Now, I'm not saying he did or he should have. I don't think he did. I think he comported himself appropriately. I think this is all a sham. I think this is what they do when they want to come after you and they want to render you ineffective, right? They want Trump. He's got four indictments that are currently pending, 91 felony counts, 2 impeachments, and 400 years in jail. Right? And I'm not kidding, right? That's 4 100-year sentences that they're looking for. Absolute absurdity. So when you go after the guy's lawyer, to me, it's just a little overkill. But Giuliani continued, and he says there are reasons he didn't take the stand. And for most people, those are strategic reasons, and they make a lot of sense. Listen to this.
If I made any mistake or did anything wrong, she was considering contempt, and this judge does have a reputation for putting people in jail, and I thought, honestly, it wouldn't do any good.
Right. We remember we had him on this show right after he got locked up. Peter Navarro, right? They put him in leg irons and shackles and waist chains and all sorts of things and threw him in the equivalent of the tombs and left him locked up. I remember when that happened. Absolute crazy. He said he would look outside his window and wave to the FBI guys. They were staking him out. Crazy time. Absolute crazy time. So this is where we are, right? Giuliani says he's not taking the stand because it wouldn't do any good. I think he's right. They might try to put him in jail, right? Outside of a civil case. This is what they want to do. They want to destroy people. Now, on the other side of things, I don't remember the last time a Republican was trying to destroy anybody. No, I'm just trying to make a juxtaposition, not necessarily say Republicans are morally superior. But I'm just saying I just don't remember. But I'm sure it happens. You know, I tend to have selective memory. Let me see. What was the last case I think of something like that? Was it Jack Abramoff? No. Yeah. Anyway, I continue to think. Let's see. Giuliani now says that the claims about the plaintiffs remain supportable. Listen to this.
I have no doubt that my comments were made and they were supportable and are supportable today. Still, I just did not have an opportunity to present the evidence that we offered. Did you notice we were not allowed to put in one piece of evidence in defense?
So Giuliani is being hamstrung in this. He's not allowed to present the evidence that he'd like. This is the game they played all throughout 2020, saying, oh, the court has, they've lost all these cases. The court wasn't even hearing these cases. So if you bring 50 cases and the court says we're not going to listen to 45 of them, and you can't go turning around and say, the court, they've thrown out 45 of those cases. I mean, you could say that, but it wouldn't be responsible journalism. But that's what happened. A lot of people just misunderstood what was going on because the courts refused to hear the cases. That doesn't equal a loss. That equals no hearing, in my opinion. Anyway, this $148 million, big figure, includes $75 million in punitive damages, along with awards of $20 million for each of the two election workers for their emotional distress, and more than $16 million for each of the defamations. So I guess how he defamed them. Crazy. I mean, I think the whole thing is nuts, personally. Some people say bad things about me all the time, and I'm not getting $20 million each time they say it, right? Not even 16. It's just crazy to me that that's going on. Anyway, some of what's going on, I wanted to bring up something from before. Earlier in the week, I may have mentioned it I may not have, but there is a story about kids in cages, and it's not the Trump story that you were told before. It's a whole different story, and we're going to get to it straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, so listen to this. Yesterday, the producers sent me a story about these two scientists who work at the University of Florida, and they were arrested after allegedly putting their kids in cages. Why? So they could go to work. Listen to this.
The pair is accused of keeping their small children inside small cages as they left for work. Now, even more upsetting, this couple actually worked for the University of Florida. Yori G and Dustin Huff are the two facing child abuse and neglect charges. Gainesville police arresting the pair on Friday following a report that their 6-year-old son told a teacher at his school he didn't want to go home because he didn't want his parents to put him in his cage. Fox 35 confirming with the university that G and Huff were full-time employees. They were placed on administrative leave on Monday. Gainesville Police Sergeant John Pandak explaining how harrowing this case really is.
Not used to walking in and seeing a cage where children are kept at night, and of course when home alone. So yeah, it was a little shocking. You'd get emotional, let's say, but you got to keep it in check. Obviously, and be independent. But yeah, having kids makes it a little more personal, maybe.
Now, as for their two small children, aged 6 and 2 years old, first they were in protective custody on that first night, that Friday night that their parents were arrested, and now they are safe with vetted family members.
So that's Kelsey Cairns with Fox 35 in Orlando with that report. Now, this is very interesting to me, right? Because whenever they talk about kids in cages, they're usually talking about the cages that were built by the Obama administration and blaming them on Trump for his border policies. But ultimately, these are two scientists, right? Two scientists, not two people that don't speak English and just came to the country or trying to make a buck. Not that that's okay, right, to lock your kids in a cage. But two scientists. Well, I want to get to the bottom of this with a friend of the program, James Agresti, the president of Just Facts, one of my favorite think tanks outside of Washington, D.C. Jim Agresti, welcome, sir.
Rich, great to be back.
Yes, sir. Well, let's talk about this because this is a disturbing but very interesting story from what I can see, right? You don't hear about people locking up their kids in cages every day. What's your initial reaction to this?
Well, you and I are both fathers, and we know the love of a father for a child. And quite frankly, it's detestable. It's sickening. It just churns your stomach to think that somebody could do that to anyone, much less their own child.
100%. And again, these people in their 30s, Dustin Hoff, 35 years old, Yuri Shi, 31 years old, they said that they admitted the couple allegedly showed the police the homemade cages as if it were all normal when police officers searched their property. And you heard the police sergeant say, I'm not used to walking in and seeing a cage where children are kept at night and, of course, went home alone. But that's exactly what it was. And these parents thought nothing of it. That's, to me, is the most egregious part of the story, in addition to the fact that they put kids in cages. Jim Agresti, in your time on this green earth, have you heard of something similar? Because I haven't.
The thing that comes to mind, Rich, and it's not an exact similarity, but it's close, is the Holocaust and what the Nazis did to Jews and children. And you raised the point about these two parents being scientists. Some of the leading people who carried out the atrocities against the Jews under Nazi Germany were scientists. So it just goes to show the difference between intelligence and wisdom and morality. They're not the same thing.
100%. And, I look at this, and I'm glad you made that parallel, because I'm still just looking at it. I'm looking at a mugshot of them, and I'm thinking, these people are scientists at a university. Like, what in their mind made them think that putting their kids in a cage was okay? Like, I'd love to hear the rationale. Like, well, it was like a more secure version of a playpen. Like, I'm just curious. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't. My first guess is the university was what put that in their mind, because just that the amorality of today's universities and the warped morals that they push is it's pervasive. We see it all over the news. We see it in polls, and these guys are a product of academia, and they're just displaying what they've grown up around. That's what they use as their compass.
Such a sad thing. Now, Jim Agresti, in your work at Just Facts, have you come across anything even remotely similar to a story like this?
Yeah. So there was a recent episode of MSNBC's flagship news show, Alex Wagner Tonight, and they had as a guest Quentin Folks, who is a Biden campaign spokesman. And Wagner teed him up by talking about Trump's immigration policies, and then said to Folks, well, Donald Trump, he's like Hitler and Mussolini. And they were both in concert. Yeah, he's like this. And one of the things they said was, well, he put kids in cages. So this is something that's been debunked for a long, long time. And yet they're still pushing this thing. And obviously they're getting away with it because the people who are watching this show either don't know or don't care that statement is a lie.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. And that happens all the time, right? I mean, I think we see a lot of that where it becomes a foregone conclusion. Just like, I think that there was one time early on when the fake news started putting out a pseudo event, some fake news, and they got called out very quickly. And it was when Dan Rather was saying a bunch of things that weren't true about George W. Bush. And I think that quickly got turned around. But then that was the last time we saw the media get corrected, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was a very clear-cut case where he basically took forged documents and he sent them out to the public as if they were real. Now, here's the thing with this kids in cages story. The evidence is just as crystal clear. So when these pictures came out during the Trump administration, they were Associated Press pictures, and liberals and Democrats were putting them all over the web saying, look at Trump, look how inhumane this is. And the Associated Press came out and said, hold on a second, raise hands. These are our pictures, and they're from the Obama administration. They're not from the Trump administration. And by the way, they're not cages. They're chain-link fence holding cells where we have to put these children to detain them temporarily just to make sure they're not assaulted. You can't put them, they're coming in by the thousands. You just can't shove them in a room with no supervision. You have to keep an eye on them. Also, you have to be careful. A lot of these kids come over as sex traffic victims. So if somebody says they're my father, you can't leave the kid in a hotel room with whoever that person is. You have to monitor them properly, and that's all this is about. Obama built the cages. Obama used the cages. Trump used the cages. Biden used the cages. There's pictures of the children in these, I'm using the word cages facetiously, but the children in these holding facilities during the Biden administration, yet we have a Biden spokesman saying Trump's like Hitler and Mussolini for using these cages, and then he, intones, that's not who we are.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I think you're 100% right. Now, Jim Agresti, I want you to stick with us because there's a few more things I want to talk about with you. You had put out a couple of interesting tweets about this Freedom of Information Act request that unveiled a 2017 border security audit by the Department of Homeland Security. And I want to get your take on what you found there in a moment. Before we hit the break, I want to give everybody the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. Of course, our guest is James Agresti. He's the president of Just Facts. You can check them out at justfacts.com. Justfacts.com is the website, or Real Just Facts if you want to catch them on social media. And folks, stick around. Jim Agresti and I are coming right back. We're going to discuss more of some of the work they're doing at Just Facts. Straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back, amigos. And I want to continue our conversation with James Agresti. He's the president of Just Facts, at Real Just Facts on all of the social media. Check out their website, justfacts.com. And Jim Agresti, you've got some information on your social media feeds about Freedom of Information Act request that just unveiled a 2017 border security audit by the Department of Homeland Security. that found that physical barriers are the most effective and least expensive way to secure the border in all of the 25 areas that were assessed. Tell us about it.
Sure. So there's a group called the Immigration Law Institute, and they filed this Freedom of Information Act request, and the Department of Homeland Security recently released this document. Now, this audit was done during the Biden administration. Yes, early in the Biden administration. And they did is they looked at 25 areas along the U.S.-Mexico border that were the sites of high illegal activity, illegal cross-border activity, drug smuggling, immigrants, whatever it may be. And they took a hard look at these areas and they said, what's the best way we can control these areas? And universally, in every one of these areas, if you look at this report, which I have linked on social media sites or on justfactsdaily.com, you can check it up as well. It's a very lengthy report. It's 100-plus pages. It looks at each one of these areas. It shows the attributes, and it says basically we need some sort of barrier. Now, sometimes they say we need a pedestrian barrier. Sometimes they say we need a vehicle barrier, but they're all physical barriers. And not only that, in each one of those cases, they said this is the cheapest and the best way to get the job done. Now, keep in mind, when this thing was released in 2017, Biden had just canceled Trump's border wall, actually did that on his first day in office. And the literati and the newsmakers were all saying, border walls, they're antiquated, they don't work, people can climb over them, they can burrow under them, and ergo, we're wasting our money and time with this. This is not the way to get the job done. While internally, the pros on the ground were saying, this is the way to get the job done, and it took a Freedom of Information Act request and 5-6 years for us to find that out.
Unreal. Now, you would think that it's kind of commonplace knowledge that a physical barrier, a wall, a fence, whatever you want to call it, would be effective. Yet there's so much debate around the fact that people, critics mainly, will say, no, it doesn't work. There's no proof that walls work. It just isn't any. And they just fold their arms and pout. Have you seen that? And B, what do you think of it?
I've seen it, and it's false. It's like the claim that there's no evidence Joe Biden did anything wrong. There is an enormous amount of evidence that border barriers work. We've compiled them from nations, from a bunch of different nations. We've shown how illegal border crossings drop when they're implemented. Now, there's a caveat in all this, and I'm always preaching this. Association doesn't prove causation. So just because they put in the border wall and then immigration dropped, well, maybe there was another factor that caused immigration to drop. Maybe there was a recession. Maybe there was a pandemic. So you can never say with 100% certainty of proof that the walls worked, but we can say this. The evidence shows every time there's one put in, illegal cross-border activity stops dramatically. Now, the opponents of walls and barriers will say, well, people get through them. They had a border barrier in Israel that was broken in by Hamas, and they committed massive atrocities just recently. So,
right.
A chain-link fence is not going to stop a military incursion. We all know that, right? So you have to put in something that's appropriate to the task. But when you do that, it works.
Folks, we're on with James Agresti, president of Just Facts. And, Jim, I want you to stick with us. I'm going to go over a couple of more things. But it just amazes me that we are where we are, that we've got all of this, back and forth about, well, that doesn't work. It does work. And to me, it's total nonsense, right? I think everybody and their mother knows that works. Right? I mean, we wouldn't put them around our yards or anywhere else or government buildings or in San Francisco or you name it, right? It wouldn't be a thing, but it is a thing. And the fact that they just kind of so flippantly make trivialize it to make it seem like it's ineffective is just, it's an insult of one's intelligence is what it is. And I can't believe they get away with it. Folks, make sure you check out the page, justfacts.com, and their companion page, Just Facts Daily, that has daily little nuggets that you want to check out and sign up for their newsletter. And we're coming right back. We're going to continue our conversation on some of the news of the day. Not sure exactly which story we're going to do next. There's a couple that I've got in mind, but we're going to nail it down. And if you have a question for Jim Agresti from Just Facts, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Just to be clear, you are saying because you think he's unelectable, you believe he's a threat to democracy. So you're ultimately still calling him a threat to democracy.
I will say those who are propagating this delusion that he will beat Donald Trump, they collectively are a threat to democracy. I'm just going to call it like I see it. And that's what the country is saying in every single poll. And if we don't wake up soon, Kristen, we're going to be in for a tragedy. And this time we know it. 2016, we couldn't believe it. This time we better believe it. And that's the truth. I just want to make it clear. He is not a threat. He's a good man and someone I respect. But this delusion that he can win is a threat to democracy, yes.
That, folks, is Congressman Dean Phillips. He was on MSNBC yesterday. And he says that the delusion that Biden can win is the threat to democracy. And that's why he's running against Joe El Baboso Biden in the 2020 race. Although most people don't hear anything about Dean Cain. Maybe it's too early in the game, or maybe he's just a little lackluster right now. But he is the one challenger that Joe Biden has from the Democrats in a primary, if you will. And interesting, right? Interesting to see. I want to bring back in James Agresti. So, Jim, you heard this audio from Dean Phillips. He says that Biden, people thinking that he could win is the real threat to democracy, while others think it's his the fact that there's a lot of believable alleged criminality that might tank his entire administration. What say you?
Well, the polls are definitely not favorable towards Biden at this point, but we have to remember during the last midterm elections that the polls were looking much better for Republicans than they turned out to be in the elections. So they're all pretty much within the margin of error, and I would not say anything with certainty as to who's electable and unelectable. A simple, stupid remark or a simple, excellent remark can easily switch the momentum in this race in the blink of an eye, because the fact of the matter, Rich, and you know this, is that the elections are determined by the mushy middle in this society.
Sure.
So the people on the left and the right, we know who they're going to vote for. It's these people in the middle that are kind of only interested on the fringes, that you just have this viral moment, and all of a sudden they're like, that's my guy, or I hate that guy.
Unbelievable. I think the whole thing is just is crazy talk. Now, you've got a good piece on the hard evidence that is warranting the impeachment of Joe Biden. We had a couple of days ago the official vote to introduce or to commence a formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden, and that seems to be in full swing in the Capitol today. Members that have been, on Twitter and here and there, whatever, everybody seems to be in the throes of it. Those that are, that are commenting on it. I know a lot of people are going home for Christmas and whatnot. So you've got a piece on Just Facts Daily, And I want you to walk us through it a little bit because I think it's really interesting how you outline the hard evidence.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, there is a chorus of people saying right now there's no evidence Joe Biden did anything wrong, nothing impeachable. He's only guilty of loving his son, right?
Yeah.
What we've done here is systematically document emails, texts, firsthand witness testimony, bank records, and a massive array of concrete evidence that shows Joe Biden participated in his son's illicit business deals, he bribed foreign officials, and he obstructed justice at a bare minimum. There may be other crimes linked in with this as well, but some of this stuff is very simple. I'll mention something for an example to start, and then we'll get into some things that are a little more complex, because some of this boils down to money laundering. And they do this thing in deliberately complex ways so that people, particularly law enforcement officials, won't find out, much less the average person who just watches the evening news for 30 minutes a night. So here's a real simple one. So Joe Biden claimed at least 8 times that he had nothing to do with his son Hunter's business deals. He said he never spoke to Hunter about him. He never spoke to his brother about him, who was also wrapped up in the deals. And so here's a WhatsApp message uncovered by investigators. It was turned over by one of Biden's business partners from May of 2017, and 2 of Hunter's business partners are exchanging messages about the Biden family's involvement in their dealings, and one of the partners writes to the other, "Don't mention Joe being involved. It's only when you are face-to-face. I know you know that, but they are paranoid."
Absolutely crazy. I think that this will have a similar outcome to Trump. If they do it, they'll have the votes to get the impeachment going in the House of Representatives. But I don't think anything happens in the Senate. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think that's a foregone conclusion. We saw that with the Clinton impeachment, where the evidence against him was undeniable. When you have a dress with a semen stain on it, we know for certain he perjured himself during that sexual harassment lawsuit. They try to make it out like it's a personal thing. It's not. Lying in a sexual harassment lawsuit is a crime. So is obstructing justice, and he did both of those. Okay? So I don't think the Democrats are going to vote to convict Biden no matter what. But the point is this. It will bring public attention to the matter. It will give the House more authority to issue subpoenas and bring in witnesses and bring in documents, and it may damage Biden politically. But not only that, it's just there's a constitutional responsibility, regardless of what the outcomes are, for people who swear to uphold that Constitution to do that to the best of their ability.
Unbelievable. Folks, we're on with Jim Agresti, he's president of Just Facts. Now, Jim, for people who want to keep up to speed with everything that you're doing, if they want to follow your daily tidbits that you put out on Just Facts Daily, where do they go?
So the best way to do that is to visit our website, justfactsdaily.com. And there's an opportunity to sign up for our emails. We send out about 1 email a week. We won't inundate you. We won't sell your email to anyone. We're really careful about that. And we just keep people up to date, or just drop by our website once a day. And typically we're posting a couple of facts a day. It's not a news site. It's a place where we publish serious research about issues that impact you.
Amen to that, brother. And I want to make sure everybody goes and follows you at Real Just Facts, on all of the social media. Check out their main website, justfacts.com, or check out the daily, justfactsdaily.com, if you want their daily insights. And, of course, sign up for the newsletter. I did it years ago, and I love it when I get new stuff. Honestly, it's very, very helpful for preparing the show and just, getting that, like Jim said, that primary source data, the hard facts, without the opinion, without the fluff, just the real deal. Jim Agresti, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. I appreciate it. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I wish you an even better Christmas.
Richie, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be on with you. You're a consummate professional and a gentleman. The conversations are always substantive, and I genuinely appreciate you having me on. Merry Christmas to you and yours as well.
Amen to that, brother. All right, folks, we will continue. There's a former chief of staff in the Department of Homeland Security who says Trump is going to turn off the internet and lock up all his political opponents. If he gets elected, we can't elect Trump. No way, no how. Anyway, we'll talk about that straight ahead. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, so I mentioned that we were going to talk about this. You've got Miles Taylor. He is a former chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, and he was on with our favorite former White House press secretary, and I say that loosely, Jen Psaki. She's got her own show on MSNBC, and Miles Taylor is on the show with her, and he says that, listen, Trump is a menace. This guy could turn off the internet and deploy the military on U.S. soil to go after his political opponents. Listen to this.
There's something in the White House called the Doomsday Book. And for the first time, DHS gave authorization for me to mention this publicly. And the fact that there are concerns that that book, which is supposed to be used to protect the country in instances of armed foreign invasion or rebellion, it's the president's most extraordinary powers, could be picked up by Trump and used for domestic political purposes. He could invoke powers we've never heard a president of the United States invoke, potentially to shut down companies or turn off the internet or deploy the U.S. military on U.S. soil. We don't know because, the things that are in there, the emergency powers of the president, aren't widely known to the American people. So that's a big worry for people like me and others about what he could do. But that weaponization of the government could extend across the interagency to places where we haven't seen it before. The Department of Education, the Department of Veterans Affairs, ways to wield that power and those budgets to help his allies and to hurt his enemies. And to be clear, those aren't just elites. To Donald Trump, his enemies include people who live in blue states. I remember him not wanting to deliver emergency aid to blue states because he didn't like them.
You know, what's funny, Mr. Taylor, is, let me ask you this. Who was it that said, I want a list of the people that interacted with a certain political figure? Was it Donald Trump trying to find out anybody who's retweeted Joe Biden? Nope, absolutely not. It was Jack Smith working for Joe El Baboso Biden that said he wanted a list of every single Twitter user that interacted with Donald Trump. Isn't that something? They've been coming after the Trump people left, right, and center since the beginning of his campaign. And you expect me to believe that it is Trump that's going to weaponize the government? Come on. I think so many Americans, and I'm not calling for this, but I'm pretty certain there are many Americans out there that would love to see Trump turn off the internet, use the military to round up the bad guys, put them in jail where they belong. Come on. It's like a dream come true for both the conspiracy theorists and those that just love this country. While it's outside of the Constitution, a brother could dream, right? Anyway, we continue our conversation straight ahead with hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. I am Rich Valdez. This is America at Night, and we're coming right back. Don't move a muscle.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of the program, Friday night edition, and our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez is the phone number if you want to join our late night national town hall conversation. I encourage you to do that. And a couple of things that are coming out of the transom, if you will, on what's going on with the war in Israel. A few things I want to talk about. You've got the IDF making a comment today about hostages. You've got Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor. He's saying, look, we're not here to tell anybody that you must do X or you must do Y. Well, I think that's exactly what you should be doing, sir. Right? We should have been doing that with Putin and with Zelensky and everybody in that region, showing leadership, I believe is what they call it. Right? When my kid was little, she had a T-shirt or a onesie, and it said, "I'm not bossy, I just have leadership skills." Right? So if a little girl can have that, surely we can get something like that, a little onesie for Joe El Baboso Biden. That would be great to have. But Jonathan Conricus, he's the IDF spokesman. Forgive me, folks. It's Friday, and I'm a little fried today. But he's on CNN earlier today, and he says that there have been some killings. He's discussing the IDF mistakenly killing 3 hostages in Gaza, while many Hamas combatants are dressed in civilian clothes. So listen to Jonathan Conricus.
A very sad and tragic event, one that the IDF, of course, terribly regrets and has told that to the families. We are investigating how it happened. One of the contributing factors are obviously related to the fact, or can obviously be related to the fact that so far what we have encountered on the battlefield are many Hamas combatants that have been dressed in civilian clothes. And I'm quite sure that has been part of the issue here, but it's still very early to understand and to say certain things. What we can say and confirm is what we have issued officially, a very sad event, tragic event. It, of course, goes against everything that what we have been trying to do for the last 2 months, more than 2 months. It's day 70 of the fighting. But even a sad event like this will not shake our resolve, and it will not divert us from the focus, which is clear, to dismantle Hamas.
So they want to dismantle Hamas, and listen, I say Godspeed to you. I think we'd all like to see that. But this war is proving a lot more difficult than I think anybody thought it would be. Lots of civilians around there, lots of, now you got hostages that are being killed by friendlies. It's a real challenge, right? Not easy in the least. Now, Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor, he's at a press conference today in Jerusalem, and he says, look, we're not here to tell anybody what to do. I say, Jake, you got to tell everybody what to do, right? This is just how it is when you're the United States. Listen to this.
We're not here to tell anybody, you must do X, you must do Y. We're here to say, this is our perspective as your partner, as your friend. This is what we believe is the best way to achieve both your tactical and strategic goals. And then second, it has to take place in private because we can't telegraph for the enemy what the plan is. So I'm not going to speak to timelines and I'm not going to speak to conditions here from the podium. What I am going to say is that we had a very constructive conversation yesterday about the transition from the high-intensity phase forward, and we expect that that will occur in the future. When exactly that happens and under exactly what conditions will be a continuing intensive discussion between the United States and Israel, and I will make sure that that conversation, at least as far as I can do it, is going to take place behind closed doors.
Now, Jake Sullivan, he was being held to task, but reporters asking him a number of questions. And one of the questions that they're saying to him is, listen, what is this, a contradiction? You're saying the war is going to take many months. Then you're going to say, we're going to address this right away. Well, he wanted to clarify what was going on for the record at this press conference in Jerusalem, where he says, look, there's no contradiction between saying the fight is going to take months and also saying that different phases will take place at different times. Check this one out.
First, as I said in a TV interview last night, what I heard Minister Gallant to say was that the fight against Hamas is going to take months. And of course, we agree with that. This fight against Hamas, a deeply entrenched terrorist group in Gaza, is going to take time, and it's going to happen in phases. And we've said that from the beginning. And so there's no contradiction between saying the fight is going to take months and also saying that different phases will take place at different times over those months, including the transition from the high-intensity operations to more targeted operations. We had a very good discussion about how that transition will occur and under what conditions and on what timeline, and we will continue that conversation.
All right, you can continue that conversation. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of it. I want to hear Jake Sullivan tell us how he's going to clean up Biden's comments saying Netanyahu has to change, right? Because that's really where all this comes from, right? Biden says that he's got to change, and then Jake Sullivan, kind of clears it up for everybody. No. Yeah, I'm the cleanup man. I'm the cleanup hitter. No. He didn't say any of that. Trust me. Here, he said this. And that's exactly what Sullivan was doing, saying that, Biden, we weren't understanding Biden the right way. Check this out.
The President of the United States again spoke at a campaign reception, and he said this about Netanyahu. He said he's a good friend, but I think he has to change. And with this government in Israel is making it very difficult for him to move. Does the president think that Israel should change its government?
Well, the president was speaking, if you look at the entire context of his remarks, explaining to a group of his supporters how he sees things generally unfolding in Israel. He's going to let the Israeli people decide for themselves what their government looks like and what their elections look like. As a very seasoned politician, he believes in democracy, and he believes that the citizens of a country should choose their own government and would not have it any other way.
Now, calling Joe Biden very seasoned is a euphemism for old as dirt, oldest president ever. Anyway, I think Joe El Baboso Biden has passed his prime. He's definitely messed this thing up, and you've got Sullivan out there trying to do a cleanup in aisle 12. I don't think anybody's falling for it, but that's exactly where we are. And we're going to continue with our discussion on the war in Israel with Hamas, plus your calls, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back, familia. We continue with the show, amigos. Our phone number, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's see, where do I want to go here? Let's go to Ken, Lansing, Michigan, WILS. Ken, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, how are we doing tonight, buddy? Great show as always. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
The truth comes out on this show.
Amen to that.
You're much appreciated, my friend.
Thank you,
much
sir.
appreciated.
Likewise.
But this clown we got in the White House is just such a bumbling fool. He's trying to bribe us to put money into Ukraine, which is like throwing it down the drain as far as I'm concerned, and he won't put another penny towards the southern border. And yet I hear on your show on Fox News tonight that Border Patrol has caught drug cartel guys with improvised explosives and AK-47s. And
Bombs.
The gangs are fighting. The cartels are literally fighting over a spot where the wall wasn't built, so there's a gap in the wall. And the cartels are fighting over that spot to bring their dope and their human traffic through. And what in the hell am I missing, Rich? If we know that and it's on our national news, why isn't there 2,000 National Guard down there watching that spot?
You know, listen, Ken, I'm with you. That news broke this afternoon, and all I could think of was, holy crap, like we're in bad shape. And that wasn't the only story with bombs. It was just one of those that I felt was it's, I guess the word I'm looking for here is, you said a couple of things, right? And to me, they're all related. You've got sending money to Ukraine. I support Ukraine. I think Ukraine needs to be free. We made a commitment to them with the memorandum of understanding that we had signed with them, the Budapest memorandum, and we disarmed them, and now they're sitting ducks. I get it. Understood. We have to protect Ukraine. However, I think to the tune of $200 billion, which is what we're on track for, no, not at all. No, senor. I don't think we can do that anymore. I think we have to provide whatever support we can, maybe provide some loans, but we're definitely not going to provide unending amounts of cash, right? That's not something that we can do because, I mean, come on. You just can't do that. Right now, you mentioned these IEDs at the border. This is a big deal, right? Because I started off my day scrolling through my social media, and I see a report. It's a video of some sort of parliament session, some sort of government meeting in Ukraine. There's a guy against the wall. I don't know. He looks like he's a big guy, real big guy. Maybe he's a security guard, maybe something else. Out of nowhere, the politicians and the crowd, you know, the public, they're having like a discussion. And the guy on the wall says a couple of words at one point, and he just pulls a grenade out of his pocket. Then he pulls another one. He pulls the clip on both, and he just tosses them at people nonchalantly right in front of him. 3 of these grenades go off. He stays standing there. Everybody gets shaken up and blown up as these things go off. And I don't know what he said. All I know is things are nuts in Ukraine, right? This guy apparently was Ukrainian. I think he was, who he was mad at, what he was mad at, I don't know. I just know that they're bombing their own meetings, right? The politicians are bombing themselves. It was just crazy to see that. Then around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I see this report that there are IEDs and explosives coming across the border, and it's a war zone. Like, it used to be a figurative war zone. Now it's a real-life war zone with bombs going off at our southern border. Does this not wake anybody up? The fact that we've got, I think, 50 or 60 now, close to 60, if not surpassing 60, attacks on U.S. military members at different installations across the country. I mean, come on. I think we're in really bad shape here. Really bad shape. Seems like there's a war afoot. We're right in the middle of it. And Joe El Baboso Biden is bumbling his way around, not saying anything about it. So, Ken, I'm with you. I couldn't agree with you anymore. Thanks for your kind words about the show. I appreciate it. We have no show without great guys like you that listen in, the men and women that make up the audience of this program. So I'm grateful for each of you. But we're in rough shape right now. Doesn't mean we stay in rough shape, but it means we are in rough shape right now, and we've got to tighten it up. We got to pull it in and do better. Anyway, Ken, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let me see. There was another one I wanted to go to here. Let's go to Boise, Idaho. Check out our buddy Paulie. Go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich. Excuse me. I think from day one, when the attacks occurred, when Hamas did their evil doing deeds, they had one thing really in mind, and that was to take as many hostages from the start as they could. And they weren't going to keep them in Israel. I think that they have that unholy alliance with Hezbollah, and I think they moved the majority of them to Hezbollah, and I think they're still residing there, and that's why they can't find the ones that we need to find, the missing ones.
Now, where do you think they moved them to? Like outside of Gaza?
Yeah, Hezbollah territory, which is Lebanon.
Like
which
in
is
Egypt, Lebanon? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And the reason why I say that is because they hate the Israelis just about as much as Hamas does. So why not be in cahoots with them and do that for them? And of course, they could get some of the money that they'd get from paying for us paying for the hostages, or the Israelis paying for the hostages. And
right,
from the very start, I also thought that the combatants of Hamas that were running like schoolgirls when they're being chased, they were wearing the women's dress, their clothing that they wear, the women do.
Right.
That cover the
they're
face.
dressed as civilians. They're dressed as women. Some of them are suicide bombers with vests or explosives in the baby carriage and trying to get close to the target so they could blow you up into little pieces. Kind of like the video I saw this morning. But this guy was a clean-cut guy. It looked like a retired soldier or something. He just was a big dude. Thought he was like a security guard or a politician. And next thing you know, he just starts dropping these grenades. And very nonchalant. He didn't scream anything. He just said, because, blah, 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 boom, here's one, here's two, boom, boom, boom. They start going off. 26 people injured. One person died from 3 grenades in a room that looked very, very small. I'm thinking, what kind of grenades are these people using? Because they're clearly not getting people. I mean, I don't want people to be dead. I'm glad there was only, 1 fatality and 26 injuries. It could have been a lot worse. And I would have expected it to be a lot worse. I didn't want it to be worse. I'm glad it didn't get that bad. But it just makes me think, this is a very brutal and primitive warfare that we see going on. And what we need, I think, is more sophistication to kind of put an end to this rather than more bombs, 5 more grenades. Who needs that? I mean, that's just uncalled for. But, Paul, I think you might be onto something. I think there's a lot of unholy alliances amongst these groups, and not much we can do except support the team that's out there trying to eradicate them once and for all. So thank you for your call. I appreciate it. And let me see. I don't think we have time to squeeze in another call because I'd like to give you enough time to really say everything you want to say. How much time, Tom? 45 seconds. So not enough time, but David from San Francisco, California, I will get to you because I know you had a comment that you want to make. We're down to like 30 seconds right now, and that wouldn't be fair to you. I want to make sure you have a chance. And, of course, I want to remind you before the music kicks in that if you missed any of the interviews that we do on the show, feel free to go to our website, richvaldezamericaatnight.com, and listen to any one of the interviews we've done. You can listen on demand. You can download them. You can even subscribe to the podcast of the show, and that's absolutely free, which you can share with your friends and help them to stay informed on everything that's going on in America at night. Anyway, folks, we continue with your calls and more straight ahead. Don't move a muscle. I'm Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, so we know that college campuses across the country have so many problems, and the proliferation of drugs is definitely one of them. I'm looking at just a couple of things, and it's not just college camps. They're all over. But listen, 7 hours ago, right? Watch this. We've got the police department in, let's see, where was this? Charlotte, North Carolina. Xanax, fentanyl, MDMA, which is ecstasy, among drugs seized at a DWI arrest. Wow, how about that, right? Somebody was driving while impaired earlier this week. Meshach Brown, 46 years old, was given a $2.5 million secured bail bond and is facing multiple charges which include firearm by a felon, possession of a firearm, trafficking, possession of illegal substances, etc. Police say they responded to a call for medical support when they found Brown passed out in his Ford F-150 with the vehicle in drive and his foot on the brake. Wow, lucky him. Listen to this little list of things they caught. 99 grams of fentanyl and heroin, 22 grams of cocaine, crack form, 27 grams of powder cocaine, 74 grams of ecstasy, 95 grams of marijuana, 20 tablets of Xanax, which would be 80 doses, because you could split them in four, $4,600 in cash, a 40 caliber pistol, a 38 caliber pistol, and some drug paraphernalia to go along with it. Now, if that wasn't enough, there's more. You've got thousands of Xanax pills that were stolen from Tennessee medical provider. And these stories go on and on and on. Everybody's always after these stories. And sometimes you got investigative journalists that are looking to check out, what's going on with these small-time fraternities that are trafficking Xanax and whatnot. And they stumble upon other things, like homicide or something worse. And that is exactly what happened in this case, right? And there's a book on it. It's called Among the Bros, a Fraternity Crime Story, written by Max Marshall. Max Marshall, welcome to the program, sir.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Hopefully you had some coffee. It's late night. And
yeah, indeed.
Some people can't
Xanax
cut it.
Would
right,
help
yeah,
me.
no Xanax here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Max Marshall, I know that you're a journalist and the author of this book, and I want you to walk us through it a little bit, because apparently the largest college narcotic network ever discovered was discovered in a fraternity. And I want you to explain a little bit about that. And really, if anything, just start with your background on how you got into this, how you were looking into this small-time Xanax ring and found something entirely different. Max Marshall.
Sure. So I was in a college fraternity at the same time as all the guys in this book, so from 2012 to 2016. And when I was in college, I saw, I would say, a pretty shocking, at least shocking to me, amount of Xanax flying around Greek life. I had friends who were using, I had friends who were dealing, and I even saw some people making their own Xanax pills. And so when I got out of college and became an investigative journalist, I had a few questions. One, why is Xanax sort of an it drug for my generation? You sort of think of, and this is obviously speaking in sort of cliches, but 60s, you think of acid or weed, 80s, you might be thinking of cocaine. But the idea of a major party drug being an anti-anxiety tranquilizer that was made for panic attacks, that's kind of surprising. And then the other sort of simpler, just more material question is, where are all these drugs coming from? Because they weren't coming from from Pfizer, from CVS. These were like chalky fake Xanax tablets that would show up at kids' dorms rooms, in basically unmarked USPS boxes, or kids were making them themselves. And so I guess, as some journalists do, I literally Googled Xanax bust fraternity to kind of see what other stories were out there.
Right.
And I found a story at the College of Charleston about a group of KAs and SAEs who had been part of this, what seemed like a small-time drug organization. They got caught with a dozen pounds of weed, a few pounds of cocaine, an assault rifle with a grenade launcher, and 44,000 Xanax pills.
Sounds pretty small time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Grenade launchers and 44,000 pills.
Exactly. Well, the funny thing is, it's very easy to buy a grenade launcher. It's very hard to buy a grenade. And so I think, they might have just had the launcher. But all that's to say is, was doing the reporting, and in one of the early interviews, a defense lawyer sort of let it slip that actually these guys hadn't been caught with 44,000 pills. They've been caught with about 3.5 million pills, which, as you said, one pill is 4 dosage units. So you're talking about a lot of Xanax, really millions and millions of dollars on the street. And as you alluded to, then I found out that a student had been murdered, and they found his body surrounded by all these fake Xanax pills, and that's how the FBI and DEA got involved. And then I also learned that at the end of this, only one boy ended up really doing substantial prison time. One of the fraternities that was involved got kicked off campus for 4 years and then came back, and the other never left at all. So there really weren't very many consequences. And so, yeah, that's kind of what pulled me into this riptide that has been the last, 4 years of my life.
All right, folks, we're on with Max Marshall, journalist and author of Among the Bros, Fraternity Crime Story. And when we come back, we're going to continue to pull on this thread to find out about this. Where did this proliferation of counterfeit Xanax pills come from? And when did college campuses become breeding grounds for this, drug of choice, with Xanax just taking prominence in particular at that time, about 4 or 5 years back. So we're going to continue our discussion with Max Marshall straight ahead. Of course, if you have a question, a comment, you want to join the program, 833-482-5337 is the phone number, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So glad to be on your show, Rich. It's just an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our story with Max Marshall. He is the journalist and author of Among the Bros, a Fraternity Crime Story. And Max Marshall, I want to pick up where you left off, where all of this criminality on campus had led to the death of a student, and surrounding the death of the student, there is millions of doses of fentanyl. I mean, not of fentanyl, of Xanax, an assault rifle, and all sorts of other, nefarious criminal props, if you will, that are necessary to facilitate this whole enterprise. But before you pick up where you left off, and this is right where it starts to get very interesting, I'm just really curious, how do they make their own fentanyl, or their own Xanax? Are they using fentanyl to make it, or how does that process work?
Sure. So, yeah, one of the biggest, probably the biggest change to college drug dealing this century is the advent of the dark web. So before the dark web, if anyone wanted to deal drugs on a college campus, they basically had to, connect it to a criminal supply chain, which meant finding someone linked to a gang, or, basically joining the supply network of a cartel ultimately.
Right.
And that, is every parent's nightmare, like going to the other side of town and, having to, drive around and find a plug is the word. But with the dark web, which I don't know how much you know about the dark web, but, it's basically an encrypted browser that makes it impossible for the authorities to know who you are or where you are. There's basically these black market Amazon sort of websites where you can sort of get anything shipped to your door without leaving the safety of campus Wi-Fi. And so what these students were doing is they were ordering black market alprazolam powder, that's the active ingredient for Xanax, from labs in southern China. They would get shipped from China through Canada. A guy in Montreal would smuggle the powder in printer cartridges, and then the printer cartridges would get shipped down to Charleston, South Carolina, where these guys would rent beach houses, a different beach house every month, and they had an industrial pill press, the same stuff that makes, pills for, the kind you get at CVS. And they could make hundreds of thousands of pills a month using these pill presses. And then they would heat seal these pills in, candy wrappers and all sorts of things, and either ship it again using the dark web all over the U.S., to the West Coast or the Midwest. But if it was going in the South, they used the fraternity system, and these fraternity pledges would basically drive the pills to campuses all over the South, to these big fraternities where you might be able to sell hundreds, if not thousands, in one go.
Wow. Okay. So they, in effect, had like an actual enterprise going on here. Not just a drug enterprise, but an actual pill manufacturing enterprise, which is just mind-blowing to think that the college kids are doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And if anything, it was sort of multiple enterprises going at once. People would compare it to Mary Kay or Cutco or Herbalife for sort of a multi-level marketing sort of scheme, where there are all sorts of kind of people doing this all at once. And there was this sort of competition for pricing or competition for supply, but it was not even one centralized ring. There were multiple kind of groups who had these pill presses and all sorts of people who were using the dark web.
Wow, unbelievable. I want to pause right here real quick and then pick up where we left off before with, they find this body, they connect it to all these other things and where the rest of the story goes. Folks, we're on with Max Marshall, journalist and author of Among the Bros, a Fraternity Crime Story. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue our discussion of what's going on college campuses across the country with investigative journalist that was trying to find out what was going on with a small fentanyl ring. Xanax. I keep saying that because fentanyl is the new drug of choice for everything lately. But a Xanax ring that ends up becoming the largest college narcotic network ever discovered, right in the middle of Greek life. And that's where this drug ring trafficked Xanax that they fabricated with ingredients from the dark web at the College of Charleston and to campuses all over the Deep South. Using their own pill presses, they made millions of Xanax tablets, distributed them using fraternity pledges as mules, and laundered money through the chapter slush fund. I mean, just a fascinating story. And then somebody gets killed. Max Marshall, take it from there.
So yeah, this drug ring really grew from about 2012 to 2016. Started pretty small time, sort of dealing weed. And then, like you said, by the end, really millions of pills, cocaine, acid, ketamine, sort of you name it. And the drug ring sort of grew and grew, more pills, more money, more fraternity, houses involved. And then on the first Friday of spring break 2016, a student named Patrick Moffley was found murdered a block from the College of Charleston campus in his house. And when the police got there, he was holding a Chipotle napkin to a bullet wound in his chest. And around his body were hundreds of these counterfeit Xanax pills. And Patrick kind of came from a prominent family in the South Carolina Low Country. His dad was a big real estate developer. His mom had run for Congress and was on the school board. And so all of a sudden there was this sort of question of, why are all these campus policemen with their golf carts and flashlights? What have they missed here? And how is this student, where are all these fake Xanax pills coming from? And in the student's house, they found a lease agreement to a stash house. So it turned out that Patrick and his housemates were very involved in this drug ring. And the next thing you know, the DEA got involved, the FBI, the Postal Service. Something I learned while investigating this book, a DEA agent told me that the U.S. Postal Service is the biggest drug trafficker in the world. More drugs move every day just through the postal system. And it, for a few reasons. One, it's just such a massive system that, they really can't hope to search anywhere near everything that goes through the mail. Second, a few drug dealers themselves have told me that because it's a felony to search someone else's mail, they feel pretty safe sending it out, knowing that, a rival won't go through it because it's a big risk. And then also, it's just such an overburdened, underfunded system that, they don't have kind of the time to search the mail. But really just millions and millions of dollars worth of drugs every day moving through the postal system. But the Postal Service also got involved in this investigation. And by the end, all these fraternity guys started wearing wires on each other. And basically there was this, domino one after the other of kind of everyone flipping on each other and cooperating with the police.
Unbelievable. So the ultimately, this whole thing came down because they killed the student. Did we ever find out why they killed the student?
Yeah, so the working theory from the police is a drug robbery gone wrong. Patrick had a broken arm. He had broken it skateboarding the day before, and he had 10,000 Xanax pills. And so the sort of thought is that these three gunmen sort of came to his house hoping just to rob him, thinking he wouldn't fight back with a broken arm. But then he himself was on Xanax and cocaine and a few other things, and was in the state of mind where he thought he could fight back, and then was, tragically killed. But then, of course, it being a murder of a young man and involved in a drug network, there are all sorts of sort of more conspiratorial theories about it being a hit, and him, himself, he was under police investigation and was about to go to trial. And and there are as many theories as there are people involved in the case, and the book gets into a few of them. But all that's to say is they don't even know who pulled the trigger. Ultimately, the getaway driver was arrested, but the trigger man has never been found.
Unbelievable. Now, let everybody know how they can get a copy of the book.
Sure. So, it's available, as they say, wherever books are sold. You can get the audiobook on Audible or Spotify. You can get it online through Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And, it's also at a lot of indie bookstores. So wherever you are, maybe start with the indie bookstore. And then if it's not there, it's certainly available online as well.
And Max Marshall, let everybody know who might be interested in following your work or subscribing to any other additional pieces that you might put out there. How do they follow you? Is there a website or a social media account?
Yeah, just go to my website, max-marshall.com, and my email's on there. And I always love to hear from readers, so feel free to reach out.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, brother, for giving us some insight into the book. Good luck with it. I hope it's a huge success. And folks, I want to thank Max Marshall for being here. Now, we're going to continue our conversations on everything we discussed in Open Phone America. That's coming up right now at the top of the hour. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the program Friday night, and hour number 3. If you want to join our late night national town hall conversation, feel free. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And, of course, there's lots of shenanigans going on in Washington, but the one I want to bring your attention to tonight, this broke a couple of hours back. Listen to this headline. Democrat Senate staffer caught filming gay sex tape inside of Senate hearing room. Yep, that happened. Here are the details on that. I think this is pretty crazy. I mean, you know, there's an old saying, you don't blank or you eat, right? And you don't do stuff like that at work is what that means. Senate staffer caught making hardcore porn in Capitol office building. Democrat senator has been identified. Democrat Senator Ben Cardin is going to have some explaining to do after one of his staffers was caught making hardcore gay pornography inside the Capitol complex. The news was broken by an anonymous writer who goes by the pseudonym Cockburn over at The Spectator, who shared the tale in rather poetic terms. The story also identified the Senate office involved as belonging to Cardin. The so-called hallowed halls of Congress play host to a plethora of indecent acts every day, but one staffer for Senator Ben Cardin is taking it to new levels. The public Twitter account for the audacious-looking young man is comprised almost solely of him in flagrant delicto or with his older bear partner. I don't know what all these words mean, but this is a quote from the article in The Spectator. The images and videos are explicit and conspicuously and deliberately contain the staffer's face. In one photo in particular, shared privately with the pseudonym, the anonymous writer Cockburn, the raised eyebrow is emphasized here, and it appears to be taken in a conference room, in the Hart Senate office building where his boss's office is located. Shortly after that report, one of the videos posted by the staffer was found and published by a conservative news outlet. It showed a nearly naked man on all fours inside of the Capitol office building with a well-placed Capitol dome over his genitalia. The video wasn't just nude posing either. The male staffer and his partner filmed themselves having intercourse inside a congressional meeting room. I think some members of Congress won't be very happy with the news. According to Mr. Cockburn's original write-up, the male staffer and his male partner, who is described as an older man going by the term bear, have been using Twitter as their personal porn venue for quite some time. And this is an exclusive that came from the Spectator. Now it's being reported in other places. I'm reading it from redstate.com. And again, that's the big story there. They were making adult film inside of a Senate office. Can't make it up, folks. Can't make it up. Yet they want to go ahead and say that Donald Trump is the big bad guy. Donald Trump is the big deal. Anyway, let's go to your calls. David, patiently waiting, San Francisco, California, listening to America at Night via our streaming website, richvaldezamericatnight.com. David, what do you think about this adult film that was recorded in Senator Cardin's office?
Oh, it's funny. What did you say the magazine, was it called The Voyeur, that put this out?
The Spectator.
Oh, yeah, The Spectator. Oh, so they like to watch. The reason I called the original...
Well, first, answer the question. What do you think about this?
Have you ever been to the St. Stupid's Day parade here in San Francisco?
All right, David, you're getting on my nerves. I've asked you the question twice, and you're not answering it. Let's make it count. You've been on hold for a while.
Yeah, and you don't want me to ask my original question.
I'll let you talk about that once you answer my question.
Yeah, like Rich, you'll do anything to censor, right? You're a liar every time you're a liar.
What have I lied about, David?
15 hours a week. You'll lie and lie and lie.
Give me the first lie. We'll take them one by one. What have I lied about tonight?
Oh, well, let's see. You had your first guest on who was is supposed to have the facts, the whole facts. Tell us all the facts. And so I wanted to ask him
what was the lie?
I wanted to ask him what he knew about Roy Cohn, Donald Trump and Roy Cohn.
David, you said that I am a liar. I'm asking you where my lie is, and you're telling me about Roy Cohn and the guy from Just Facts.
Yeah, and Just Facts didn't provide any facts. He was just a front man for your liars. So I would love to ask him.
I'd love to ask you, what is the lie that I have told this evening? One lie.
Well, your whole interview was a lie.
Forget the whole interview. Pick one part of the interview.
It's all a dream of smears, and I at this moment I couldn't think of a single one.
Of course you couldn't, because you're full of crap, David. You're full of crap. You're filled with hatred. You call here just to try to give me a hard time, and then you get a shot at giving me a hard time, and you don't even get to give me a hard time because you can't even support your own shenanigans. I got to tell you, it's fun to talk to guys like you, but at the end of the day, it's really sad because all you want to do is take shots. Like I take shots at Biden all day, but I've got all the numbers in the world to prove it, and so do the polls, right? I'm not alone in my critique of Biden. It's not a lie. It's an opinion, and an opinion based on the facts. The numbers are there to back it up. You call, you say I'm a liar, you say this, you're very circuitous in your commentary. You don't want to jump from one thing to the next without answering any questions, no accountability. You can't call people a liar and think that they're not going to call you out on it when you have no way of backing it up. Anyway, thanks, David. I appreciate it. Hasta la próxima. Until the next time. Anyway, folks, we will continue with your calls and more. If you want to disagree with me and call me a liar, feel free to call, but you better have your ducks in a row. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mr. Valdez, you have one of the greatest shows that radio's ever had.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. Let's go to Luciferno calling from Mound City, Missouri, listening on KMA. Go right ahead, Luciferno.
Hi, Rich. I want to cheer you up, and I also want to congratulate you how you handled that last dude. This tribute is for you. This song was written before you were born from the late, great Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh,
I think you'll get it.
Great balls of fire. Very kind of you. To say that. And, honestly, I don't like to lose my cool with any of the callers. But every now and again, it's just, they try to play a game with you. It's a little game that they play. And
I totally
it's
understand.
never honest. And I wish it was.
I understand.
Right?
You keep rocking them, okay?
It's kind of like when you go and you argue with your friends about politics and they just start doing it. It's like, it's frustrating. But thank you, Lucy. I appreciate it. If I don't speak to you again, have a great Christmas. And we will continue with the rest of your calls. Let's go to Steve, Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Steve, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir. What's on your mind, brother?
I think Lucy wants to marry you.
Ah, join the club, Lucy. Join
and
the
you
club.
know what? If you were a really, really, really good-looking female, I'd marry you too.
Oh.
You know,
thanks,
so
Steve.
that.
I appreciate that. Now, what's on your mind tonight?
And oh, by the way, before I ask my question, I want to say this: you don't have to mention that you're brown. I'd listen to you anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't typically mention it. It's a female announcer that does it, and I think she does it tongue in cheek.
You let her do it though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wish your guest before who talked about that drug thing, who wrote that book, and so he's not going to be able to answer the question, but you please do. Okay.
Sure.
What if, or would you support a bill in Congress that required a mandatory or an optional death sentence, I guess, depending on which state it was? If you had over 500 fentanyl pills that you were transporting, that you were convicted of dealing in, would you support the death sentence? And my opinion is, before you say yours, my opinion is, if you had over 500 and you were convicted, then you've already killed at least one person, and so you should be eligible for the death sentence. That should be on, in my opinion. And so I wanted to know what your opinion was. I would have loved to have heard the other guy's opinion. All right.
Okay. Well, Steve, here it goes. So I believe that if you're in a state that has death penalty, capital punishment, then I think it's appropriate to use capital punishment where it's commensurate. For example, if you've already killed someone, right? If you killed John Smith, then I think it's only fair that you be considered for the death penalty. Now, let's say I have a bunch of guns with me, and these guns could potentially kill people, but they haven't killed anyone. Should I get the death penalty for having these guns that could potentially kill people? No, of course not. The same way if I have fentanyl or any other drug. If the drug hasn't done its job of killing you via overdose, then I would say no. I mean, people need due process, and we have to go through things. Would I support making rules stricter and charging people with terrorism and other things? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Whatever we can do to curtail the distribution, the proliferation of fentanyl and other illicit drugs that are hurting people, absolutely. But I think we have to stay within the confines of due process and our Sixth Amendment, so that we have a set of rules that we live by and that we follow. Because otherwise, things can get a little out of hand. They can take it can get sloppy very quickly. But that's my thought on that, Steve. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the call. Big shout out to the ATL in Georgia, WGKA. Let's continue. Let's go to Allison, Portland, Maine, WLOB. Allison, go right ahead.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this a bit. I know what was done by Hamas into Israel on October 7th was horrible. But what's being done by Israel to the Palestinians over the past over 2 months is just unbelievable. It's just, it's going on 18,000 or more people killed, most of them civilians, a lot of them children and women, and this just raise everything, destroy everything, looking for the criminals. It can't be tolerated. It just, I think, if it were any other country than Israel, or most countries, I don't think it would be tolerated. And I can't stand it. I listen to the World Service on BBC and listen to the doctors working there and the aid people. There's been well over 100 aid people from the UN and things, people killed even. And there just has to be some solutions. They just can't be allowed to, because something horrible happened to them, they can just wipe out everybody on the way to their actual terrorists. it's making me ill. It's just I can't stand it. I'm sorry. I just wanted to try to say something.
Yeah, listen, I understand what you're saying, and I feel badly for anybody that's being killed, honestly. I don't know that there is a solution. I just don't know that there is one. I think that the Israelis are a lean, mean fighting machine that weren't looking to get into a war, but found one. And probably the last people I want to get into a fight with is those guys, or the Americans. And that seems to be what happened. And it's kind of like, how do you put the toothpaste back in the tube at this point? I don't know. How do you stop Netanyahu? I don't know. Do you stop him? I mean, I think their goal is clear, which is we've got to get Hamas. But I see your point, and it's a real one, right? Even today, they admitted, their IDF spokesperson said that they killed 3 people, hostages, trying to liberate hostages. Right? It was an accident, friendly fire, whatever, but it happened. And these, it's easy for me to say these are the things that happen in war. It's collateral damage. I'm not in a war. So I get what you're saying, and anybody with a good heart is going to want the killing to end, both on the Israeli side and on the side of Gaza. So I'm not mad at you for feeling the way you do. I just don't know that there is a solution right now. I think that this is a problem that was created by Hamas, and they are paying the price several times over. And innocent people are paying the price because of where Hamas does what they do. They put their rocket launching locations, their whatever pseudo bases, if you will, in hospitals and synagogues and schools, and they hide behind civilian cover as a way to do what they do. And this puts those people directly into harm's way. And again, I have to say, the Israelis announced that they're coming in and they're going to raise everything and they're coming after the bad guys. Yet Hamas has all of the ability to fire rockets, to go and kidnap people, to do all these things, but they don't have the capability to get people out, to work with Egypt and say, hey, open up the border and let them out so we can fight this fight, just the men that are here, and let the women and children out. What has Hamas done to save a single life there? This is the issue that I have. Anyway, thank you for your call, Allison. I really appreciate it. I'm with you in feeling badly about what's going on in the Middle East. Folks, more to come straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
Voted best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. And the autopsy results are back for the star of the hit sitcom Friends, Matthew Perry, also known as Chandler Bing. He unfortunately passed away, and they're saying that it was the acute effects of ketamine. The acute effects of ketamine. Now, I remember I first heard about ketamine in high school, and the people I knew in high school said that this stuff was a horse tranquilizer. I'm guessing just like everything else, like ivermectin and other things, you can give it to animals as well. I don't think it was invented for them, but I don't know. You know, I know nothing about it. If you're an expert in this field, give us a call. But Matthew Perry died due to the acute effects of ketamine, according to the Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiners. And in a statement, the medical examiner's office added that the manner of his death was an accident and that the contributing factors included drowning coronary artery disease, and the effects of, let's see, buprenorphine. I don't know buprenorphine. I don't know that one. Perry died at his home in Pacific Palisades. Now, this autopsy was done a day after he died. He had a history of drug use, but was reportedly clean for 19 months. The report described him as a tobacco user for many years, but currently not smoking, and on ketamine infusion therapy, with most recent therapy reportedly 1.5 weeks before death. Perry was reportedly receiving ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety. The report categorized ketamine as a dissociative anesthetic and mentioned that around 3,540 nanograms per liter was found in his system, while noting the levels for the general anesthesia are typically in the 1,000 to 6,000 range. So he was in that range, about halfway through it. Anyway, ketamine's defined as an anesthetic with some hallucinogenic effect by the U.S. DEA. The medication alters the perception of sight and sound that makes users feel kind of devoid from pain and out of control from their surroundings. Ketamine can induce a state of sedation, feeling calm and relaxed, immobility, relief from pain and amnesia, no memory of events while under the influence of the drug. That's crazy. Who'd want to be on a drug where you forget everything that happened? That's kind of nuts. And is abused for the dissociative sensations and hallucinogenic effects, said the individual from the DEA. Ketamine has also been used to facilitate sexual assault. The approved medical product is used in injectable form, and they use it in people as well as animals, and as a nasal spray for treatment of resistant depression. Now, what's interesting is that during the break, I was telling the guys in the control room that I constantly see these ads for a nasal spray with ketamine in it. And I thought to myself, I thought that stuff was used to knock out horses, but apparently people are using it in nasal spray. I don't know if I'd recommend that. I think that's a good idea. We just saw Matthew Perry die from that. Why on earth would you, shoot that up your nose? Beats the heck out of me. But that's what's going on. And the way this thing works is the nasal spray or the pill, I guess. The point of it was to treat depression with suicidal ideation, and their hope was that this would work, but I don't know if it did. Now, Dr. Nolan Williams, he's assistant professor at Stanford University, Department of Psychiatry. He told USA Today about a year ago that ketamine's effects on mood are not entirely clear due to many mechanisms happening at the same time. Ketamine targets a neurotransmitter, late on a Friday, neurotransmitter called glutamate, as opposed to dopamine or serotonin. Glutamate promotes the brain's ability to form lasting and new lifestyle patterns. I think that's the neurotransmitter that's affected by those weight loss drugs, like semaglutide and the rest of them. Anyway, ketamine is often stigmatized as a party drug, has a negative perception, and is known on the street as Special K. However, psychiatrists have said that ketamine can be a life-changing solution in a controlled medical setting for those that are unresponsive to conventional medications. Back in 2000, a big study showed that the drug's antidepressant and anti-suicidal effects were prominent. And more recent studies showed to support the same, that ketamine's high rate of success in treating depression. So seems like that's a good thing, according to them. I don't know. I'm not recommending ketamine. Haven't tried it. I'm not going to say go out and get yourself some ketamine. The whole thing looks a little crazy to me. But that's what killed Matthew Perry, and I want to get your thoughts and opinions on this stuff because, I'm interested in that. Let's go to Jane, Saratoga, New York. WGDJ. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. That isn't why I called, but yeah, ketamine, it can put you into like a zombie state and sort of keep you kind of level where you can't go up or down. And then when it starts to pull out of your system, that's when the stuff can be really bad, because then you tend to want to take more and more and more, and it's not, in my opinion, not a good thing. Not a good drug to
Understood,
use.
Jane. Now, I know you wanted to make a comment about something else. Go right ahead.
Yes. We spoke last night about men being responsible for many things in this world, and we talked to you very well. You spoke about men up on light poles and stuff like that, doing all that really hard work. And you know what we forgot? The one main thing we forgot to mention was you. And you come here every single night as a hero of all of us night owls who predominantly have right wings, as you know, and brains, most of us, and Tom. You guys are the best out there. You really are. And you cover subjects perfectly. You know how to nail people to the wall, which is really good. And you do it very well. So, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
You're the best out there, kid.
I appreciate it. And let me tell you, I'm blushing right now. It's really nice. It's very kind of you to say, and I do appreciate it. And honestly, and I am a pretty self-centered person. That's why, I succeed in radio. You have to be a little full of yourself to make it work here. But in reality, it also comes with a very healthy dose of humility because it's such a competitive industry. And sometimes you're grinding. You don't know what you're fighting for. Sometimes you just keep going. And I'm glad that it's working. Right? I'm glad there's people out there that appreciate the program as we continue to grow. So it's very kind of you. Thank you so much. I hope to speak to you again before we take our Christmas break. But if I don't, Godspeed to you. Have a great Christmas. And folks, we get to the rest of your calls and more straight ahead. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The Hamas is a terror organization that built itself for a decade to fight Israel. And they build infrastructure under the ground and on the ground. And it is not easy to destroy them. It will take and require a long period of time. It will last more than several months, but we will win and we will destroy them. So thank you once again for coming to Israel, for helping us, and for supporting us. And I'm looking forward to our meeting.
That is Yoav Gallant. He's the Israeli defense minister. He was with Jake Sullivan today, saying that this war is going to last several months. Now, war is a business for everybody, whether it's justified or unjustified. It is a war. It's a business, right? There's somebody profiting somewhere from this. And that's, in my estimation, why people like to prolong things, because it makes them money, right? You could be dormant for a long time, but then once you get that good conflict, you want to unload as much of it as you can. More tanks, more bombs, more guns, more whatever. So I understand the military-industrial complex and their need to create and process and all that stuff. I get it. But I don't know the outcome of this, right? I don't know any of it. I don't know the ins and outs. There's lots of speculation that Israel is in cahoots with this and they're in cahoots with that. I take things for how they come to me. And I know that they were attacked and they're retaliating. And if I were prime minister, I'd likely do the same thing. And I would very likely just figure out, how do we do this once and for all? You know, what's the biggest way to go after the top guys? And I think ultimately the top guys are the mullahs in Iran, right? They're the ones that are funding all of this unrest and these attacks. So I don't know. I don't know where to go from there. Let's see what Rob in Mitchell, South Dakota has to say, calling us from KORN. Rob, go right ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my call. You're looking good. I saw your photos the other night on the event, black jacket.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that was the Turning Point USA Winter Gala, and that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Rob.
We're short on time, but I was calling about your exact comments. Excuse me. Okay, so there was a guy that worked for Donald Trump and Mike Pence. They both hired him. His name was Dr. Philip Haney, and he was an entomologist, and he summed up all efforts of counterterrorism with the saying, follow the trail, find the hive. So in our laws that are anti-material support, it's about the ideology. So you mentioned Iran, but if you really narrow it down, the Hajj is not directed there. It's directed in Saudi Arabia. So that's the key hive. That's the custodian.
Right.
So the leader of Hamas, the lower central guy that's been in Qatar, that Israel acknowledged his presence there, but they decided in the news, they said, I'm out of breath. They said that they were not going to go after him because of obvious international implications.
Right. Can't start a war with Qatar.
Even bigger uproar. Right. So then he got shuttled over to Turkey, and he's been there periodically. But, you know, he can't go there without the U.S. Air Force approving him landing because of the air bases there.
Yeah. Listen, I'm with you, at least what I'm gathering what you're saying. I would love to go after Iran. I would love to go after the big money guys, Hamas big money guys that are in Qatar. I would love all that because you got to cut off the cash supply and see how they start to fold. That's ultimately, I think, the way to do it. And you could strengthen your own position once you've cut off the other one. However, I don't think that's actually what's happening and what's ever going to happen. I think they're always going to stick with what's easiest for them and, you know, and go with the flow that way. So I think these guys are doing what they've got to do. I think they're realizing we have to take out as much of the infrastructure that they've laid as possible to make sure that they can't continue to attack. They can't survive to be out and about trying to get these guys. I don't know if they're going to succeed. I would suspect that Israel will eventually succeed, and in, you know, redoing all of it, you know, just kind of eliminating so much of what we know today as Gaza or whatever. I think a lot of that's going to go away. Just my thoughts, Rob. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Hello.
Yeah, are you
still there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I was on mute or something, and I didn't think you were hearing me. Okay, so the problem is we're the remnant, the Christian remnant, and that land is ours also, and I don't appreciate the Republicans and the Democrats trying to negotiate away our land. And this two-state solution is dead. So the problem is if they would just talk to the king and tell him to get his terrorists out of there, that's the way to do it. But instead, they're shedding the blood of the innocent. And so now God is going to be forced to intervene. And it's not a good time.
Well, listen, I'm hoping God intervenes in every war because I don't want to see people dying on any side, right? I would love for there to legitimately be peace in the Middle East and everywhere else. I think peace is important for all of us. Lamentably, these power struggles always come down to fighting, and that's where they are. I got to take a pause here, But Rob in Mitchell, South Dakota, thank you for your thoughts. I appreciate it. Big shout out to everybody on KORN. And we continue with your calls in the speed round straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, folks, it's the speed round. That means they're kicking me out of here pretty soon. Let's go to Clint calling us from, let's see, is that Ellie or Eli, Nevada on KRVN?
Ely, Nevada, yes.
Ely, all right. Go for it, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, I was curious, do you feel that firearms have an independent, sinister will of their own to kill people?
No, not today. Not yesterday either.
It seemed like you were making that argument earlier in the hour that, if you had a bunch of guns, none of them had killed anyone yet. I think
right. Well, no, I was making the exact opposite argument, right? Because the question that was posed to me was if the fentanyl, if you're caught with a ton of fentanyl, should you be given the death penalty? And so, in a tongue-in-cheek manner, I said, well, that would be like me saying I'm traveling with a bunch of guns and they haven't killed anybody yet. So therefore, I should be charged with murder because I'm simply carrying or transporting firearms. Obviously, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Just like the fentanyl doesn't kill people. People overdose. So if you have an overdose and you want to charge that, then I guess you can go that route. But I don't think you could just say by having fentanyl or having Xanax or having any of those drugs that you're somehow guilty of taking a life.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that. I just wanted to make that point that, firearms are just a tool. And if we were going to make that, that's what Alec Baldwin tried to say was, gee whiz, I was just holding it and it went off. I didn't have anything to do with that, which is a ridiculous argument. I mean, any tool can be misused. So
sure,
look
at all those hammer attacks or even the knife attacks that we see all over England and whatnot. They're all over the place. But Clinton, Ely, Nevada, KRVN, thank you for the call. Feel free to call back anytime. Let's go to Carter with seconds to go. Staples, Minnesota, KOKS. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Rich. I just wanted to sum up the evening with my own melancholy here. As the news changes day to day, 5,860 illegal aliens are coming into the country every day.
You're right. 5,600. It's like 10,000 a day, Carter. I think you're spot on. Folks, I want to thank you, Paul, Frank, Sarah, Rod, everybody that's on hold I couldn't get to. Hasta la próxima. Until the next time, I want to thank you for your calls. Take care, good night, and God bless America. I am Rich Valdez. We'll do it again on Monday.